When you're marketing a house, how do you decide what to put in the listing description to make sure you're enticing buyers? I spoke with Ginger Wilcox. She is the president of Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate, and we went over all the design trends for 2026. We also talked about the integration process of the Compass Anywhere acquisition and handled a couple other trend topics. So enjoy the podcast. And a special thank you to HomeBot for sponsoring this episode of Real Trending. Ginger, thanks so much for joining the Real Trending podcast.
Hi, Tracy. It's great to be here.
Yeah. So beginning of the year, and you kicked things off with a Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate Design Trends report. I want to talk a little bit about that. So tell me about how that came about, because you've done it for a little bit, for several years now. And were there any surprises in this one?
I wouldn't necessarily say that there are surprises. This report is actually significantly different than the ones that we've done in the past. We wanted to go much deeper with this report and make sure that we're helping support the current challenges that our agents are having when we think about pricing pressure and the market's evolving. We have slower decision cycles and all of those things. And so we wanted to ensure that the report captured all of the insights in the way that buyer behavior is ultimately changing, and leveraging the deep insights and data that we get through our relationship with People Inc. in order to be able to put that together in a way that really helps support what agents need to be able to deliver better service to their clients.
Yeah. So what do you think is like the connection between design and a buyer's emotional response at first look? Like, how big of an influence does design have on a home's like market performance today?
The presentation actually matters now more than ever. Today's buyers are looking at every detail that is in a listing before they ever actually even walk in the door. And strong design ultimately helps them imagine what it's like to live in the home, which it becomes very important for today's home buyers who are thinking about things a little bit differently than they have in the past.
Yeah, I find it so interesting because, when I walked into the house that we currently live in, I mean, there was a red hallway, there was an orange hallway, there was it was crazy. The bedroom was painted construction orange. But like, to me, I have had the ability to ignore all of that, right? Because I saw the butler's pantry and, the game room. It saw some of the things that I really loved about the house, but I don't find that that's what really happens. I mean, they're looking for a turnkey. Oh, this is perfect. I love it.
It's very true. When a house creates that emotional connection with a buyer, it actually changes a lot of their decision making, and even simple changes to a property. And we talk about paint a lot, but it makes a big difference, because many buyers, unlike yourself, have a hard time visualizing what that future could look like. And especially with some of the online behavior that we're seeing, people expect things to be turnkey the moment they walk in, and any way that the presentation can reflect what buyers are expecting is helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. So what did you find what are some of the highlights, the emerging design trends? Which ones do you think will most directly impact buyer behavior this year?
The trends that we think will most directly impact buyer behavior are those that are really about daily functionality. So buyers want those spaces that are going to work with them. They think about wellness, they think about work, they think about family. They want those flexible layouts that make it easier for them to envision actually living in the space. We've talked a little bit about social media. Social media is having a big impact on what buyers are looking for. So things that maybe weren't as important in the past become helpful as a seller is thinking about marketing their property. So those moments that are sort of Instagrammable, the kitchen nook, the coffee bar, those types of things become very impactful. And I think we'll see that continue to expand.
Did you see, COVID kind of changed, the talk was that people wanted they wanted more closed in spaces, not the open layouts. Did you see that change back in this report, or, what are you seeing?
Yeah, we're definitely seeing a switch from the mass open spaces to more about functionality and how people can use that. And so that can come in multiple places. It can come through new actual room layouts, but it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be walls everywhere, because people still like airiness, they still like light, but what they're looking for is the ability to imagine a function in a specific space. So things like screens can have a big impact on what buyers can visualize in the space. But the trend is definitely evolving to more defined spaces than we've seen in the past.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I've heard that like gray is out too. So, um,
And
and
we,
so,
and we did see that in some of the color
okay.
choices as people were looking at, right? You're
Yeah.
seeing more of that evolution to some of the browns and
Yeah.
other colors that sort of reflect nature
Mhm.
and how people can feel sort of grounded in their spaces.
Yeah, yeah, I find it so interesting, all of this. So, how do these trends vary regionally? Like, it's hot in Florida versus a major urban market like New York or LA.
Yes. So our survey was a national survey. The core themes still stay the same. People are looking for functionality. They're looking for flow. They're looking for light. Those are universal. But in each market, there's also nuances that go with that. And so in Florida, you are looking for what we saw in the report. Everybody was looking for more of an indoor-outdoor connection. But what that means in Florida may be different than in LA or New York. In more urban markets, people are obviously looking at space differently because they don't have as much space. So how they use that space becomes very different. And so that I would say that multi-use rooms, things that storage, all of those things are more relevant in specific areas than others.
So let's talk about some strategies for agents to use this report to help them in their business. What are some of the things that you recommend they use it and how they use it to, solve for some of the problems that you mentioned earlier about what's going on in the market?
Well, first of all, we actually put together an agent companion guide for this report. The report is so extensive. We wanted to be able to help deliver to our agents clear insights from it that they can then leverage in their staging, leveraging in their market. But if you don't have access to that, I would just say thinking about overall, how does design impact the buyer behavior? How can they leverage the trends that we're seeing to be able to highlight different features in their marketing to ensure that they're educating buyers about what the future value might be as well, based on the long-term trends that impact homes. And ultimately, for an agent, having an understanding of what consumers are expecting is going to help them be able to deliver a better and more customized experience to their buyers and sellers.
Okay, great. And so there, obviously designs trends are continually evolving, but so is buyer psychology. So what
Yes.
consumer preferences are you seeing that are reshaping how people think of home? And let's be specific about it, like so that agents can understand what they need to be looking for, because those might be marketing points for them.
For sure. So for agents we know that trends continue to change. And we talked a little bit earlier about even the color changes. What's old
Hmm.
is new and what's
Hmm.
new is old in some cases. So color trends will continue to shift. They evolve pretty quickly. And some of those micro trends of things that you might see on Instagram, like the coffee bar is hot right now,
Hmm.
will evolve. The things that have staying power that agents can be focused on are things like the layout, how people can actually live in their home, the flow. What does the indoor outdoor spaces look like? The other components that are, I would say, trends that are impacted by the things they're seeing on social media, the hot colors for the year, are things that they can be including and incorporating in their marketing, but they don't necessarily impact the long-term value of that home. And so that's an important consideration as they're thinking about how to use them, whether it's in their staging or adding those into their listing descriptions. And as a buyer's agent, it's also helpful to be able to point those things out to the clients that you're serving as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great guide to use even just for staging a house,
Yeah.
because you can kind of incorporate some of those design trends into the staging to make it more attractive for buyers too. So,
Yeah, even something like a reading nook. You don't have to have a built-in nook to create a space that
mhm,
you can visualize. It could be a corner chair that's set up with, a lamp and a
mhm.
small table and has the books there. There's different ways that you can do it without having to have a hard footprint that still mimic to some of the trends that people are looking for.
Yeah. Before we move on to some other questions, are there any specific trends that surprised you or that you want to go into a little more detail about?
I would say the trend that probably uh, maybe most surprised me is just relating to some of the color shifts. And it was actually really interesting to me when I looked at them, because I looked around at my own home and realized I already had incorporated a lot of the colors that we're seeing. So this calm coastal blue is the top highlighted trend, which is a little bit different. Actually, you may have seen that Pantone recently came out with their color of the year, and that's this sort of white, and it created a lot of hullabaloo in the market. But what we're seeing for what people actually want to do is very different than maybe a Pantone color that's predicting what people might wear in their clothing or how they might actually live in their home. So I would say that that's maybe the big trend, but that's nothing super surprising for what we're seeing, other than maybe the impact of social media and how that really changes what buyer behavior is actually going to be.
Yeah. I mean, my sister-in-law is an interior designer, and she's the one who told me gray is out, which is good because my whole house is somewhat traditional. But, you try to put a modern edge on it, right?
Right.
But gray does not go in my house at all.
Well, and we're seeing that kind of marriage of both the
Yeah.
gray and the gray and the brown through colors like a grayish. So you
Yep.
still have some component of it without it being completely stark. And I think that's kind of typical of trends, is you see this like slight evolution of the colors in order to be able to go to kind of the next decade of what we're looking for.
Yeah, I feel like it's very similar to fashion too, because a lot of what's going on in the country, just in general, drives fashion trends and drives interior design trends and just design trends in general too, like COVID did. People were looking for homes that had office space or some space they could use to work remotely. What trends do you see that really reflect what's going on in the country in general? Did you see through the report?
It's interesting that you mention fashion and home, because it is very true. I was just shopping for a new pair of jeans, and one of the ones came up was like a 90s style jean. And that's very much what we see in these home trends as well, is this mimicking of fashion and home and how those kind of come together. And we've talked a little bit about like floor plan and functionality has definitely been evolving. What became very popular in the past around these wide open spaces, people realize that from a livability perspective, and particularly now as more people are at home, more people are using their homes in different ways, that has certainly influenced the trends. We're seeing that even from an entertaining perspective, entertaining is back, and for a while it wasn't there. So people want to live in their home differently. The indoor outdoor space is really big. People want an outdoor room, and that reflects in thinking about staging, for example. And it's not just the backyard. It's also thinking about the front porch or even the front yard. Those kind of trends are back, and they are really add significant value for the home seller if they're able to showcase them to buyers.
Yeah, I love the whole idea of design trends and as they relate to fashion trends too, because of course I'm into that. So let's get into the recent acquisition. So exciting news. Compass and Anywhere they merged officially. And I wanted to talk, like, what do you see as, I know the integration hasn't completely started, but how is that shaping your strategic priorities for this year?
Well, first of all, I'll say that we really see this as a milestone moment, and we're so excited for the future. We are definitely in the early phases of the integration. We just closed a few days ago, and there's a lot ahead that we need to do. But the great thing is there's nothing significant that agents and brokers need to do differently today. And our priorities for this year really remain pretty constant. We're focused on all of the things that we can do that drive agent success. So we're continuing to build on consumer trust. We're thinking about how do we help support agents and make sure that they can differentiate and have the skills to be able to serve today's home buyers, and so that sort of remains. We anticipate that there's going to be this added strength behind us, and we're really excited for that. But today's focus is all about making sure that our agents and brokers are successful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want, like, from your vantage point, what do you see as the biggest opportunities that Compass will offer to an already great, company?
The biggest opportunities that we think Compass will offer are obviously scale,
Yeah.
resources. We think that there's a lot of opportunity to strengthen our network and help agents grow. If you think about it, this is a very unique and incredible value proposition to the agents and brokers that are affiliated with our network. We have the power of this largest real estate company in the world, which scale really matters when you think about services that you can deliver. And then you combine that with this connection that we have with the largest print and digital publisher in the world, with People Inc., which is the parent company of Better Homes and Gardens. We have our brand trust. We're in over 40 million homes, sitting on coffee tables. We're in the kitchen recipe. And when you combine all of that together, that becomes really powerful. And it's a unique advantage that nobody else has, that we're able to deliver. We also are really excited about the future with technology. Compass obviously is on the cutting edge of innovation and technology. And when that technology is available for our brokers and agents, we think that will be a huge, opportunity for them to be able to combine that with some of the unique resources and insights that we already have with BHGRE.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what's next for all of the companies involved in the Anywhere Compass merger. So exciting stuff. Let's talk more about kind of things that are going on in real estate in the industry right now. So if you could forecast one major shift that we haven't fully seen, or people are maybe underestimating, whether it's tech, design, consumer behavior, business model, whatever it is, what would you put your money on, happening in 2026?
I would say that buyer expectations continue to evolve, and we have to be able to adapt with that. And that comes from the standpoint of the technology, but it also comes from the standpoint of what they're actually looking for when they're looking for homes. And our inventory isn't necessarily adapting as fast to buyer preferences as is needed. And so agents that are able to actually think about what are buyers looking for, and be able to not only market their homes, but stage them, prep them, do all of those things, will have a big leg up and be able to help those buyers visualize what's happening in that space. And I think that's going to continue to drive things for a while. It's not the same as it used to be, where agents can just focus on, marketing a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. People are looking for something that's much different in kind of their process. We know that today's buyer is also a little bit older, and that is influencing consumer behavior and what they're actually looking for in their home, because they're not necessarily moving as fast as they used to either.
Yeah, hopefully we'll be lowering that first time home buyer age from 40 to maybe 30 in the next couple of years. So
yes, affordability definitely obviously continues to be a key challenge that I think we're going to face for a while, even as we have obviously seen some of the trend of rates dropping.
Yeah, absolutely. So what advice would you give agents today who want to lead their local market by leveraging both design savvy and the latest tech to lead their market?
I would say that you need to combine technology as well as sort of storytelling as you think about how you're supporting and serving both buyers and sellers. So thinking about how do you use AI and data and the unique insights to understand pricing strategies, to understand your marketing strategies, and what features you should focus on. I would think about making sure that you're actually telling a story about your listing. We touched a little bit on this earlier, but it isn't about the 3-bedroom, 2-bath any longer. It's about the place in a home where people can come and they can visualize sitting there and reading a book, or entertaining their family, and being able to tell the story about how people can live in that home differently and for a long time is really important for agents to think about as they work with the evolving consumer behavior that is continuing to evolve.
Yeah, it's all about lifestyle, right? You want your home to reflect your lifestyle, and your report can obviously help with some of those key marketing points when you're either staging a home or writing a listing description, or marketing the home in general too. So yeah.
People definitely are looking for livability when they think about how the homes that they're looking for, and it's important that you can help them visualize what that looks like for today, tomorrow, and for the long term as they're going into that property.
Yeah. So my last question is just, what do you think is the single biggest brewing issue in real estate that agents and brokers should be paying attention to?
I think we've touched a little bit on affordability and inventory, and it's not old. It's something that's still here, and it's something that we're going to have to deal with for a long time. And how to be able to continue to support their buyers and sellers, given that. We also need to think about how people are aging in their homes. You're seeing more multi-generational types of buyers coming in because you have families combining in order to be able to increase affordability. So the entire component of livability, functionality, room layout all becomes very important for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Any last thoughts?
And I think it's important that design trends continue to change. We actually launched our trend maker program for our agents. And when we created the program, we realized it couldn't be something that we created to set it and forget it. We do a monthly call with our agents where we're continuing to bring new insights to them. And that's important. What we see today will continue to evolve throughout the year, throughout next year. And so staying on top of the trends and ensuring that you have the information about what people are looking at now becomes really important. Social media and technology is driving changing preferences much faster than ever before. And so stay current, stay focused on what people are looking for, and you'll be able to really serve your clients well.
Yeah, it's really hard to keep up with home changes, design changes that are happening so quickly because, a home isn't something you redecorate every couple of months, So
Yes.
definitely.
It's also important to remember that what you as an agent may not necessarily be true for the broader population. And so you have to take some of your own design biases out of your process and ensure you're really thinking about a broader set of, home buyers.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Ginger, thanks so much for sharing on the Real Trending podcast today. It's always a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you so much, Tracy. It was great to be here.
Thanks.